Early one morning in August 1954, Sadako Sasaki peeked out her bedroom window at the bright blue sky over Hiroshima. She had waited all summer long for this day. Not a speck of cloud, a good luck sign. Sadako was always on the lookout for good luck signs. Her older brother, Masahiro, was still asleep. "Get up, lazy bones! It's Peace Day!" Sadako rushed into the kitchen. "Mother, I can hardly wait to go to the carnival!" "Sadako, you're 11 now. It is not a carnival. This is August 6th, a day for remembering those who died when the atom bomb destroyed our city." Sadako's father came in from the back porch. "Your mother is right, Sadako-chan. Peace Day is a memorial day. It's a gift from the gods that you were not hurt by the bomb, and you must show respect. Your own grandmother was killed on that terrible day." "Oh, I do respect grandmother. I pray for her every morning. It's just that I'm so happy today." Just then, there was a knock at the door. It was Sadako's best friend, Chizuko. "Mrs. Sasaki, do you think Sadako could leave a little early with me?" Well, she is ready. Both girls were already out the door and running down the street. Mr. Sasaki just shook his head. "That girl was born to be a runner. You always said she learned to run before she could walk." At the entrance to Peace Park, crowds of people headed toward the memorial building. Inside, they looked in silence at photographs and paintings of dead and dying people in a ruined city. Exactly 9 years before, on August the 6th, 1945, at 8:15 in the morning, a gigantic blinding flash exploded. The atom bomb, the thunderbolt they called it, had turned Hiroshima into a desert. I remember the thunderbolt. It was like the flash of 1,000,000 suns, and the heat prickled my eyes like needles. Chizuko was surprised. "How can you possibly remember anything? You were only a baby then." "Well, I do. I remember." Outside there were prayers and speeches. A bell tolled as the mayor's closing words rang out over the crowd, calling for an end to the horrors of war. "Never again. Never, never, never." As he spoke, hundreds of white doves were freed from cages. They circled above the scarred and twisted atomic dome, flying safely into the freedom of the sky. With the official ceremonies over, Sadako led Shizuku straight to the old lady selling cotton candy. It tasted even better than last year. In the evening, when the last dazzling display of fireworks faded from the sky, people brought paper lanterns to the banks of the Ota River. They were marked with the names of relatives killed by the bomb. As the lanterns were launched, they floated out to sea like a swarm of fireflies against the dark water. Sadako wrote "grandmother" on hers. It was the beginning of autumn when Sadako rushed to the house with the good news. "Mother, the most wonderful thing has happened. The big race on field day. I've been chosen from the bamboo class to be on the relay team. Your father will be very proud. From then on, Sadako thought of only one thing, the relay race. Each day at school, practice, 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 until at last the day arrived. The relay race was about to begin. The whistle blew and the runners were off. The first bamboo runner broke ahead of the group and took the lead. But the next bamboo runner fumbled the baton. The team lost important ground, falling back to third place. Now there was only Sadako left to make up the lost time. Her rivals, two boys, looked taller, stronger. But when Sadako grasped the baton, she was filled with a burst of energy. Running with every ounce of her strength, she pulled ahead of the first boy. She steadily and swiftly gained on the lead runner. Only 10 yards to go, and now she and the boy were neck and neck. When she broke through the ribbon, she heard someone cry, "You did it! Your team won!" It was then that Sadako first felt strange and dizzy. Her heart was thumping painfully against her ribs. But oh, the feeling of winning. All winter long, Sadako worked to improve her running speed. But sometimes, after a long run, the dizziness would come again. She decided not to tell anyone, not even Shizuko. At midnight on New Year's Eve, Sadako was cozy in her bed when the temple bells began to chime, to ring away the worries of the old year and mark the freshness of the new. With each toll, Sadako prayed to be free of her secret and asked that the dizzy spells go away, away, away. It was a cold, crisp winter's day in February. Sadako was practicing on the street in front of her house. She saw her brother Masahiro watching and ran over to him. "I know I can beat my old record today. Time me." When Sadako began running, she felt as if she had wings. "Keep going, keep going! You can do it!" Suddenly, everything seemed to whirl about her, and she stumbled. Sadako's legs went wobbly, and she sank down. That afternoon, Sadako's parents took her to the Red Cross hospital. In the examining room, the doctor asked her about the dizzy spells. She saw a troubled look on his face. Then she realized, this is where people come who get sick from the bomb. When she looked into her parents' eyes, Sadako felt a pang of fear. She asked her father, "Do I have the atom bomb disease?" "They just want to make some tests. You might have to stay here a few weeks, though." "A few weeks? But I'll miss graduation. And what about the racing team?" "Listen, is there anything you want?" Sadako shook her head. All she really wanted was to go home. The next morning, Sadako woke slowly, hoping that yesterday was just a bad dream. But then a nurse came in carrying a tray. "I'm Nurse Yasunaga," and she began preparing an injection. "Is this going to hurt?" "Just for a second. Getting shots is part of being here. You'll get used to it." Later, when Sadako was being examined again, she heard a doctor mention leukemia. It came from radiation, a kind of unseen poison caused by the bomb. She knew that many people died from it. She also knew that some got well. In the afternoon, Sadako noticed a fuzzy little spider on the floor by her bed. A spider was a good luck sign. The next moment, Shizuko peeked in the doorway. "I figured out a way for you to get well. Watch." She cut a piece of gold paper into a large square and began folding it. Then again, and again, over and over. Until she held in the palm of her hand a perfect paper crane. It's beautiful, but how can this make me well? Remember the old story about the crane? It lives for 1,000 years. If a sick person folds 1,000 paper cranes, the gods will grant her wish to be well again. Here is your first one. Thank you, Shizuko-chan. I will never part with it. When Sadako began working with the paper, she discovered that folding a crane wasn't as easy as it looked. But that afternoon she completed 10. Some were a little lopsided, but it was a beginning. In the evening, Masahiro brought Sadako's homework from school. When he saw all the cranes crowded on the bedside table, he began hanging them on threads from the ceiling. "Masahiro, do you promise to hang every crane I make?" "Sure." "All 1,000? 1,000? You're joking." And she told him the story of the cranes. That night he hung the growing flock, all except the golden one, which stood alone in its place of honor, a silent guardian. Soon everyone was bringing paper for Sadako's good luck cranes. 16, 17, I wish I get better. 18, I know I'll get better. With practice, her fingers became sure and worked swiftly. Now the birds were perfectly folded. The flock grew to over 100. Shizuko offered to help fold, but of this Sadako was sure. For the magic to work, she would have to make all 1,000 by herself. That night, before she went to sleep, she folded one more crane for her flock. I will get better, and someday I will race like the wind. One day, Nurse Yasunaga wheeled Sadako onto the sun porch. Off in a corner sat a 9-year-old boy. "Hello, my name is Sadako." "I'm Kenji." Kenji had been in the hospital a long time, much longer than Sadako. Both of his parents were dead, and his closest relative was an aunt. "The doctors can't help me. I've got leukemia from the bomb." "You can't have leukemia? You weren't even born then." "The doctors say the poison was in my mother's body. I got it from her." Sadako wanted so much to comfort him. So a miracle can happen. I know about the cranes, but it's too late. Even the gods can't help me now. Just then, Nurse Yasunaga walked over. Kenji, how do you know such things? I just know, and besides I can read my blood count on the chart by my bed. Every day it gets worse. What a talker. There's more to getting better than charts, Kenji. Back in her room, Sadako folded more cranes. Her thoughts turned to Kenji. What would it be like to be so sick and have no family? Kenji was brave. It was good to have a friend there, close to her own age. Each day they'd meet on the porch and swap stories. And sometimes, when they were completely alone, they talked about the bomb, about being sick. Yet, even with all their talk, it seemed impossible to make sense of this. And what could they do anyway? Then, one day, Kenji didn't appear on the porch. Late that night, Sadako heard the rumble of a bed being rolled down the hall. And she knew. Kenji, dead. Why? Why did he have to die? As she turned to the wall, she let the tears come. Sadako heard Nurse Yasunaga say, "Come, let's sit by the window and talk." As they looked out at the night sky, Sadako asked, "Do you think Kenji is up there on a star island?" "Wherever he is, Sadako-chan, I'm sure he's happier now. He shed that tired, sick body, and his spirit is free." "I'm going to die next, aren't I?" "Shh. You keep folding those cranes. Come, let me see you fold another one before you go to sleep. After you finish 1,000, you'll live to be an old, old lady." Somehow, that night, it was hard to make her fingers work. But as she folded, Sadako thought to herself, "This crane will help me remember Kenji." Summer brought warmth and sunshine. Sadako seemed to be getting better. "I'm over halfway to 1,000 cranes. I can just feel something good will happen." And it did. Her appetite came back, and much of the pain went away. To keep the magic working, she made more cranes. 544, 545, and soon it would be Obon, the biggest holiday of the year. Sadako would be allowed to spend the holiday at home. The house had been scrubbed and swept until it gleamed. The air was filled with the smells of Sadako's favorite foods. Obon was a special celebration for the spirits of the dead who returned to visit those they loved on earth. Sadako helped her mother place dishes of bean cakes and rice balls on the altar shelf to nourish the returning spirits. It was good to be home. Perhaps, just perhaps, she was home to stay. Later, her mother stood in the doorway of her room and whispered the poem she used to say when Sadako was little. Oh, heavenly cranes, cover my child with your wings. The next day, Mrs. Sasaki came out with something she had always wanted Sadako to have, a silk kimono. It's very beautiful. But why did you do it? I'll never be able to wear it, and silk is so expensive. Sadako-chan, your mother stayed up late last night to finish sewing it. Try it on for her. Sadako put on the kimono. Masahiro said she looked like a princess. Then Sadako's younger brother, Eiji, pulled out a crumpled piece of silver paper from his pocket and handed it to his sister. Here, it's for another crane. Sadako sniffed the paper. Smells like candy. I just hope the gods like chocolate. Everyone burst out laughing. It was the first time they'd all laughed together in months. With all the holiday excitement, Sadako grew pale and tired. And when the holiday passed, she was happy to be in the quiet of her hospital room. She brought back a gift from the bamboo class, a kokeshi doll. Sadako kept it next to her, like a friend. Often, her thoughts turned to Kenji. What good was so much sickness? What good could she do? She remembered Peace Day and the bright paper lanterns floating on the river. She picked up the special crane she made the night Kenji died and decided to send it to the mayor. She looked at the paper bird and said, I will write peace on your wings, and you will fly all over the world. Fall came. Mrs. Sasaki was spending more time at the hospital. You'll be better soon, Sadako-chan. Maybe when the sun comes out again. But toward the end of October, Sadako grew weaker and started wondering. Does it hurt to die? Or is it like falling asleep? Still, she managed to fold more paper cranes. 643, 644. One day Sadako drifted in and out of a strange half-sleep. When I die, I will live on a heavenly mountain and meet Kenji on a distant star island. Each time she opened her eyes, her family was still there. She could feel the presence of grandmother. She knew she was part of a warm, loving circle. Nothing could ever change that. She looked up at her cranes, fluttering overhead. In the light autumn breeze, they seemed almost alive. How beautiful and free they are. Sadako closed her eyes for the last time. Sadako Sasaki died on October 25th, 1955. Her friends and classmates worked together to fold 356 cranes so that she would be buried with 1,000. But that wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. During the next few months, the bamboo class gathered her letters and published them in a book they called Caucasian, after the doll they had given her. Sadako's friends formed a paper crane club and began to dream of building a monument to her and all the children who died from the atom bomb. They collected money for the project and told people throughout Japan about Sadako, her 1,000 paper cranes, and her wish for peace. 3 years later, in 1958, their dream came true. Now, there stands a statue in Peace Park. There is Sadako, holding a golden crane in outstretched arms. Today, people like you all over the world fold paper cranes and send them to Hiroshima. Every year on August the 6th, Peace Day, children hang the many garlands of cranes from the statue. Their wish is engraved at its base. This is our cry. This is our prayer. Peace in the world.